Excellence webinar titled Leadership, Making Lean a Success. I'm Jerry Strohmeyer, the Education and Training Program Coordinator for AME, and I will be your moderator. Today's presenters are Per Petersson and Henrik Alsterman. Also joining us is Jim Garrick. Per Petersson has worked with Lean and business development for 19 years, primarily as a researcher, author, manager, and Lean management coach. Henrik Alsterman has worked with manufacturing and business development since 1983, both as an employee and with his own company, and he began working in 1987 with Lean in the Toyota production system. Per is a senior partner, and Henrik is the CEO of Part Development in Sweden, where they work as Lean management coaches and authors. They both have extensive experience in Lean and leadership from administration, manufacturing, product development, and service. They also have co-authored 3 books on Lean. Jim Garrick is the Process Improvement Advisor at FedEx Express. He has over 25 years of experience concentrated in the areas of Lean manufacturing and optimization of the enterprise supply chain. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping items. You will be in listen-only mode throughout the webinar. You will see that you are muted on your attendee panel on the right side of your screen. If you have questions during the webinar, please type them into your question area in the attendee panel and click on Submit. We'll review the questions at the end of today's presentation and answer as many as we can. When you log off today, please check your email inbox. In it will be an invitation and link to fill out a short webinar attendee survey. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey today, as your feedback is very important to us to improve future webinars. Per and Henrik have also graciously agreed to provide a PDF of today's presentation. We will be sending that along with a recorded link for a webinar replay to each of you next week. Now I am pleased to introduce Henrik Alsterman, Per Petersson, and Jim Garrick, who will present Leadership, Making Lean a Success. Take it away, Per.
Thank you, Jerry-Ann, and welcome everyone to this webinar that we call Leadership, Making Lean a Success. And this title is also the title of one of our Lean books that we have written. I'll come back to that. My name is Per Petersson, and I will perform this presentation together with my colleague Henrik Alsterman. So, this webinar is based on one of our 3 books on Lean, and it's the book in the middle, Leadership, Making Lean a Success. And it's a book that provides a concrete description of how leaders should behave and act in order to support a sustainable and successful Lean journey. And to the left, we have the first book we wrote. It's called Lean, Turn Deviations into Success. And you could say it's an in-depth description of the Lean principles to really make people understand what they actually mean and how they can be applied in order to improve quality and to produce effective and efficient flows. To the right, we have our third book. It's called Employees' Guide to Success, Improve Lean. And it describes what we expect from employees in terms of acting and behaving to support a successful Lean journey. And all of these books are available at Amazon.com. So, now to today's agenda. Henrik will start by describing the basic relationships in Lean, how we go from values to results. And then I will come back and I will talk about leadership, Lean leadership, and with focus on the leadership principles. I will also describe at least one in more detail leadership method, and after that we will go into summary and some questions and answers. So take it away, Henrik.
Thank you very much. My name is Henrik Alsterman, so I will guide you through this session from values to results. In general, how do we improve our results? It is not so common that you meet people within an organization that has the opinion that they have too much stuff, they have too much equipment, or they have too good equipment. More often you will hear, we need more stuff to meet the requirements, or we have to invest in order to meet the customer demand, or we need one more shift. Another way to focus on output in a single process is simply by working harder. Luckily, there are more valuable ways to improve results. We tend to have the view that our flows are quite straightforward, one process directly after another. If we look sharply at our operations, we realize that most of the time spent from order to delivery of a product or of a service is pure waste. If we see this, it's often obvious where to put the focus in improving the results. For the lean leader, it is not only important to have the knowledge and skill to see and reduce waste, but also to train their teams to see and reduce waste. To work with waste reducing in campaign is more easily done than striving for that everybody contributes to improve the flows every day. On the slide, there is a conceptual model. What it shows is the important relationship between values, principles, ways of working, and results. The values influence the whole organization. Everything we perform within the organization should be in line with the values. The lean principles, for example, just in time, guide us how to think if we want to develop a method or how we perform a task. All the methods and ways of working should be evaluated to secure that they are based on lean principles. One important belief is that the result of, for example, a task is possible to control with the way we do things. Therefore, we put a lot of effort in methods and ways of working. If we followed agreed ways of working, we will get the predictable result. If the result does not meet our requirement, we go back and see if we have followed the agreed method. If we have followed the agreed method, we have to redevelop the method still based on the lean principles. Values. One can say that the values are the soul of a company. The values reflect how the organization wants to relate to their stakeholders. Employees, owners, customers, suppliers, and society. They must be in balance. The values sets demands for various behaviors that together creates and shapes the culture. The values are therefore important to relate to for the leaders in an organization that strives towards lean. In order to create a sound culture, the values has to be translated to desired behaviors. Poster on the wall with words are unfortunately not enough. The crew that created the words or developed the values might be committed what it's all about, but for the rest of the stuff, it probably will be just words. For example, how can the value respect, if you have chosen that, be discussed and translated into behaviors? First, if you ask a group of people, what does respect mean? They might give you the answer that we all have the same value. If you continue with that, we all have the same value. How can we create that everybody in an organization has the same value? For one way to do it might be to let everybody share their opinion in meetings. Okay, what activities can we do to let everybody share their opinions in meeting? We can put in a standard agenda that before taking decision, the leader of the meeting asks everybody of their opinion. In that simple example, a value, respect, has helped us to form a standard agenda that helps us to create a culture where everybody can feel that they are respected. It helps us to create the behavior that we respect each other. Sorry. Lean principles. When we talk about lean principles, we relate to the classic TPS house and Taiichi Ohno's two-pillar concept. In our literature, we describe the pillars as the main principles, JIT and Jidoka. Each pillar consists of principles. The just-in-time principle, consisting of takt, continuous flow, and pull system, helps us to think when we strive for the perfect flow. Jidoka, with the principle built-in quality and the easy to understand but so hard to do principle, stop the process, helps us to think how to create products with the right quality to the right cost. The foundation is the base for the temple stability. We call standard and leveling basic conditions in order to succeed with flow and quality. The roof, with its general orientation goals, symbolizes the vision of waste-free operation. And in the center, the teams that perform improvement work. The temple symbolizes that all the parts are necessary in order to succeed. Unfortunately, one cannot just choose the parts that feels most interesting. All parts of the temple is necessary in order to succeed with Lean. The word standardization that feels inspiring for everybody in all organizations, or probably not. Still, it's necessary to work as a good seller for standard continuously, but especially in the beginning, since those who have contributed will have their light bulb moments and see how standard can gain everybody. The Lean leader must take the Lean principles to their heart and always has them as a starting point in improving the flows, more or less in a daily manner. Further on, they must train their staff to use the Lean principles. Methods, ways of working. As standard is the base for both the flow, by having the performing time under control, and the quality, it will affect everything. Therefore, a lot of effort must be put in ways of working. Within Lean, unpredictability is one of our worst enemies. The way we work will affect the result. If we do it in different ways, we will get different results. The more ways we do things, the more difference in result. If we perform a task the same way, we will get the same or at least similar result. If we do it the same way and we get the result that does not satisfy the customer, the path to find a solution is normally much shorter. Standard and deviation is the fuel for improvement work and new learnings for organizations. To see and solve deviation makes it possible to be a little bit better tomorrow than today, which keeps us competitive in the long run. One of the most important roles for the Lean leaders is therefore to put daily focus on ways of working. When we work with Lean, it is important to satisfy all stakeholders in a balanced manner. Different tasks that we will perform will satisfy different stakeholders. For the owners, the most urgent questions might be about profitability and market share. The customer might be more satisfied on a certain level of flexibility or short delivery time. For the employees, economic security, to be sure that they have a job even next week, might be the most important. Sometimes a certain decision will satisfy all in a balanced manner, but most important is that the sum of the decisions are balanced. If we want to be more competitive, it is obvious that we want to do more with less resources. Sometimes it's more with fewer resources. If we are on a growing market, it might not be a big deal. We make much more with the same resources. But if we are on a growing market, if we are not on a growing market and become more efficient by improvement work, we have to deal with our unused capacity. We are now talking about excess capacity because of improvement, not because of market drop. If we lay off people after improvement done by the team, it's like shooting yourself in the foot, through your head. Who will participate next time to improve? The usual suspects. Nobody. It is therefore important to find other things to do so the organization can have better economy and the staff can keep their jobs. It is important to communicate a positive lean strategy. There shouldn't be any hidden agenda, for example, laying off staff. If you want to free the creativity and motivation of our staff to work with improvement, the employees must feel safe. In the short term, freed capacity can be used for further improvements. Imagine to have full-time improvers in your organization. In the long run, business must be expanded. Insourcing of business that are run by somebody else might be possible for some organization. Increase market share by reducing prices might also be a strategy. Action must be taken in order to adjust the workload and rise the income must be planned for. Depending on the structure of the owners, some organizations has to put in a lot of effort in this subject to avoid short-term economic actions that destroys the possibility to succeed in the long run. Thank you. I hand over to Per.
So Per is here again, and the next topic is leadership principles. And here we will describe our view of successful lean leadership, and we will present 4 leadership principles that provide guidance for leaders in how to behave and act in order to support a sustainable and successful lean implementation. But first we'll take a look at what characterizes a lean leader. And to answer that question, I would like to put things in a historical perspective. And I will draw extremes here. I know that there have been exceptions, but this is what we believe have been the mainstream leadership models over the years. So first we had, a long time ago, hopefully, the old dictator model, where the leader said, "Do as I say." And so in this leadership model, the leader was the guy or the woman who was thinking, and the employees, they just had to do what the leader said. So they did not really have any authority to take own initiatives. And then the pendulum swung back, and we got the involvement model from the 1990s, where it was totally different, where the leader said, "Do as you like." So it means that the leaders set the goals. For example, you should reach a 95% delivery reliability. And then he or she almost abdicated as leaders, which means that, of course, the employees had the possibility to take their own initiatives and think for themselves, but it was very unstructured because everyone was working in his or her own way. So there was very, very little focus on the how to do things. And then we've got the third leadership model, the lean model, where the leader says, "Follow me." And I would say that this leadership model is somewhere in between the old dictator model and the involvement model. So in the lean model, the leader is the teacher, and the leader teaches by example. So it's a lot of focus on how to train people in how to choose methods, how to develop ways of working, and also how to actually apply these ways of working. So given this leadership model, the lean model, there are some distinguishing characteristics that form what we believe is the essence of lean leadership. And it says that the leader should train the organization to understand the values, lean principles, and ways of working. And it means that they should train people to understand what do the values actually mean, what does the lean principles actually mean, and what do we have, which are our ways of working, and how do they work, and why do we have them? How do they bring results? So it's about training people to understand the basic relationships, how we go from company values to results. Leaders also must drive change and make demands, because if the leader don't, no one else will. So it's an extremely important part of the leader to not only train but also drive change and make demands. The leader also should empower people and support them in their improvement work, assign clear powers to improve, and invite people to improve. And I think this is necessary to make people dare to take improvement initiatives. And also last, a lean leader should focus all follow-ups on ways of working and not the results. And this is often called, as you might know, management by means. And to describe management by means, I'd like to use this conceptual model that Henrik described earlier. And you could say that management by means is the opposite of management by results. So if we start by management by results, it basically it is similar to the involvement model that I described earlier. So in management by results, the leader sets the goals, but is not very interested in how the results are achieved. So there's a total focus on the goals, and all follow-ups are focused on the results. While in management by means, we work at the upper level of this pyramid. So what the leader does is that he or she focuses all the follow-ups on have we chosen the right methods or ways of working, and do we consequently apply them over and over again? Because in Lean we have a conviction that if we use the right methods or the right ways of working in the right way, we will get the right results. You could say that in Lean we look upon results as being just a consequence of how we work. And it should be said in this sense that no organization is 100% managed by results or 100% managed by means. Those two management styles are two extremes on a scale. But what we want to say is that when we strive for Lean, we should consequently strive to take steps towards a higher degree of management by means. So, in an organization striving for Lean, every employee should have two tasks that are equally important. First of all, to perform the assigned work. It could be to perform bookkeeping or welding or surgery or whatever. That is the natural first task. But equally important is the task of improving ways of working. And these two tasks actually apply also for leaders, because leaders are also employees in relation to their subordinates, or sorry, to the superiors. And but leaders additionally have two other roles that are equally important, and it is to develop the skills of his or her personnel and to improve ways of working in leadership. That is, these lead roles is basically to improve people and to improve the way we improve people. So you could say that in this sense that leadership is an operation in itself. Just like any operation, it can be standardized and it can be improved. So to support employees in their striving to live up to their two equally important tasks, we have defined 4 employee principles. And as you can see in this picture, the first employee principle is to always act in line with values. The values indicate desired behavior, to be a good team player and to strive to satisfy all stakeholder groups. And the second principle is follow standards. By following standards, I know as an employee that I do what's expected from me. And applying standards is also necessary to detect deviations, which are related to the next principle, participate in the improvement process. This principle states that everyone is expected to participate in improvement work as good as they can. It's simply not okay to choose not to contribute to the development of the operation. So this is very different from what I previously explained as the old dictator model. And the last employee principle, teamwork, it states that we should strive to work in teams whenever possible to share knowledge and to get the best out of each other. So in Lean, we believe that 1 + 1 is simply greater than 2 when we work in teams. These employee principles it's valuable for employees to use as a guidance in how to behave and act, but it can also be used for leaders in as a checklist when evaluating employees. And to support leaders in their striving to live up to their roles, we have also defined 4 leadership principles. And these leadership principles should guide the daily work of every leader. And as I said before, they are there to guide leaders in how to think and act to be a good leader in a lean environment. And the leadership principles are to train, to follow up ways of working, to provide support, and to challenge. And I will describe each of these leadership principles in more detail. So first of all, the leadership principle, train. It says that the leader should be the teacher, and the leader should teach his or her employees in theory and practice about values, about what the lean principles actually mean and how we can apply them, to teach the employees in the methods, how to choose methods, how to choose ways of working, how these methods or ways of working are actually working. And one thing about this leadership principle is that being the trainer, the leader gets authority through his knowledge, and that is something that is important for long-term sustainability of the lean effort. But to live up to this lean principle, it requires from the leader that he or she understands the operation in detail. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to teach people in the practice. But he or she must also understand the people, the individuals in the team, because it will be difficult to, different individuals will need training in different ways, depending on where they are in their development. And it also, of course, being a teacher requires that the leader is present at Gemba, that is where the value is added. So we've got to be there to be able to train our people, and we have to be there as much as possible. So the next leadership principle is to follow up ways of working, and it means that the leader shows interest in how things are done. So this is basically applying management by means. And I think that we know from our private lives that follow-ups are extremely important to change behaviors. We will hardly keep on doing things if no one asks for it. And we also want to have frequent follow-ups. If we only have follow-ups at meetings, perhaps once a week, then we would probably not have a change in behaviors. But we want, in this case, to have frequent follow-ups, not only at daily meetings, but actually all through the day. All kinds of follow-ups. For example, do we follow our standard work? Do we apply by our flow rules, etc.? And this leadership principle requires from the leader that he or she is truly interested in the operation. Otherwise, it will be very, very difficult to have these frequent follow-ups. And it also requires persistence. We need to cope with asking the same questions every day. And just like in training, it requires presence at Gemba. Otherwise, it will be very, very difficult to make these frequent follow-ups. The third leadership principle is provide support. It means that that we as leaders should be there, present at Gemba, to support our employees whenever they need support. Because if we don't, they will probably lose engagement. And one important thing to point out here is that we should support and we should not solve problems for people. Because if we provide a solution, there will be no learning. So what we should do is to try to ask the right questions so that people can come up with their own solutions. Then there will be commitment to this solution, and there will also be learning, which means that the need for support eventually will fade away. And like in training, we need to adapt the support to each employee's abilities, which means that we really need to know our people. And, of course, it requires presence at Gemba. It's impossible to support someone if you're not there. The last leadership principle is challenge. And challenging an operation could mean that we set higher goals, but it could also mean that we challenge individuals to take on new tasks that they haven't done before. Another way of challenging could be to follow up more often. For example, if we follow up an operation, follow up the output every 2 hours instead of every 4 hours, we will see more deviations, and that will in turn challenge the operation to improve even more. And challenging is definitely a leader's responsibility. If the leader doesn't challenge the operation, no one else will. But also it requires engagement from the leader, because when we challenge, we will see a whole lot of new deviations, and there will be more work for everyone, including the leader. So we really need to be engaged in order to have the energy to challenge. And also we should think about that we should challenge and not punish, because if we make an unrealistic challenge, people might believe that it's a punishment. So realistic challenges, they must also be motivated. We must be able to explain why we make this challenge. And we should also strive to make challenges predictable, which means that, for example, we could say in advance that when we have reached our goals of 95% delivery reliability and we have been stable there for 2 months, then we will make a small challenge. In that case, it won't be the people won't take it as a punishment, because it's all predictable and we could see it coming. And as always within Lean, we should challenge in small steps. So the aim of these leadership principles and employee principles is to adapt the behaviors to support the implementation of the Lean principles. So the leadership principles and the employee principles focus on how the organization should behave, while the Lean principles describe ways of thinking and designing ways of working. And these relationships between the various sets of principles corresponds to how we have divided the contents of our 3 books. So the blue book, Lean Turn Deviations into Success, it focuses on describing what the Lean principles actually mean and how they can be applied to improve an operation. While the black book, Employee's Guide to Success, Improve with Lean, has its focus on the employee principles and the employee's role in Lean. And the orange book, Leadership Making Lean a Success, focuses on the leadership principles and the desired behaviors of leaders in order to improve an operation through the leadership principles. So this was the part on leadership and leadership principles, and now we will go into the next section, which is leadership methods. And I said that the leadership principles that I described, they provide guidelines for leading an operation towards Lean. But to further improve conditions for these leadership principles to take effect, there are some leadership methods that may be helpful, and we will look at some of them in this section. So we stated earlier that leadership is an operation in itself, which means that it can be standardized and improved like any other type of operation. And the same relationships apply, like in this conceptual model. The principles show us how to think, no matter if it's the Lean principles or the employee principles or the leadership principles. But we all know that thinking is not enough. We also have to do things to make results. And therefore, we could derive methods or ways of working from these leadership principles. And so at this level, we have the leadership methods. And by applying the right leadership methods consequently and in the right way, we will get the right leadership results. So in this book, Leadership Making Lean a Success, we describe 7 leadership methods. I will go through them just briefly, and then we will look into one of them in a little bit more detail. The first 2, 5Y and the A3 methods, are well-known Lean methods. I guess that you know about them at this point, but in this book we actually describe how they can be applied to leadership. And then we have leader time. It's a method that we have developed, and I will go into that method and describe it a little bit in more detail soon. Pulse meeting, perhaps some of you know about that leadership method. It's a method of frequent information and decision making in the short term. It's a fantastic method to apply management by means. Leader Pulse is a method that we have developed. It's very close to a pulse meeting, but the difference lies in that in the Leader Pulse we only inform and discuss and take decision about deviations related to leadership. Lean Leader Development is a method that we have developed, and it aims at improving the individual leadership of every leader. So it starts by a self-assessment, an individual self-assessment, and then there's a structure on how each individual leader can work to improve the individual skills in his or her leadership. And the last method, Hoshinkanri, is probably well known to some of you, and it's a method of setting goals and aligning goals and getting commitment for goals. So, but I will here go in to describe the method Leader Time in more detail, just to so that you can get a glimpse of what it is about. The aim of this method is to standardize the leader's workday to create the conditions for improved leadership. And as you can see in this picture, the method consists of 4 steps. We have analyze. We have the second is question. The third step is structure, and the fourth step is standardize. And as you can see here, these steps are also related to the plan, do, check, act cycle. But of course, the first question to ask might be, why do we need this method? Why do we need leader time? Well, as I described earlier, the leadership principles, we believe that they are important to guide behaviors of leaders. And what all these leadership methods have in common is that they require presence at Gemba. And I would say that that is one of the leaders' biggest problems, time. We don't really have the time to be present to actually be the leader that we are supposed to be. So this method is actually about how can we free up time for leaders to actually apply the leadership principles. So this is what it often looks like. We have leaders that are overloaded. They're overloaded. They have too much workload, often long days, consisting of meetings, administration, reports, and so on, but very little leadership. You don't really have the time to be a leader, and that is frustrating, and it leads to leaders being overworked, and the employees feel that they are not seen. So through the leader time method, we want to decrease the workload, the original workload, by making things faster, perhaps being more strict of what the leader should do in terms of administrations, meetings, and so on, so that we can fit in time to actually be at Gemba, being the leaders we are supposed to be, where we can apply the leadership principles to our employees. And this hopefully makes people feeling stimulated, and that the employees feel that they are seen and that they are important and that their work is important. So, the first step of this method is to analyze, and what we do here is basically that we map the leaders' work days. In this case, we have a whiteboard, and we have Monday through Friday on the x-axis, and we have time on the y-axis. And then we simply put post-it notes in different colors to visualize what a typical work week for a leader looks like. And we in this case, we have used different colors for different types of tasks. For example, meetings have one color, time at Gemba has one color, administration has one color, and so on. So this gives us the present situation in a visualized way. And you can see that there's more than 8 hours a day, and it's very scattered picture. And this mapping of the present situation is done individually by each leader during some weeks, and then we compile a standard week. And then the next step is about questioning the present situation. And here we can use the ECRS rules that we often use when we make value stream maps. And the first rule in ECRS is to eliminate, and it could be about asking ourselves, can we take away any follow-ups that don't have a clear recipient? Are there any tasks that don't need to be conducted at all? What happens if they're not conducted? So in this way we might be able to eliminate some of the work content that the leader has today. The next rule is combine, where we can ask ourselves, does everyone who attends each meeting really need to be there? Can one representative be sent instead? Or can some meetings be combined to save time? The rule rearrange could mean that we ask ourselves, can we agree to spread out activities such as employee appraisals over time so that we don't overload managers at certain points in time? For example, if all employee appraisals must be done in January, it will be very difficult to have the time to be a leader in January. Then we can ask ourselves, is there any other than the manager that can conduct certain tasks? For example, a secretary or a coordinator or someone else. And the last rule is to simplify. Is there any way we can make follow-ups, reports, meeting minutes, and so on more efficient so that it can be made faster? So by questioning the present situation, preferably together with your superior manager, you could hopefully decrease the workload. And for that workload that is left, we go into step 3 and we structure this workload in a way that we like, and we create like a schedule, a future state that we want to follow. And it is like a schedule in this way, where we could say, for example, that all meetings are between 8 and 10 every day, and so on. And we are always at Gemba at certain points in time during the day, so that will be predictable for our employees. And in this picture you can also see a gray magnet on Monday at 10 a.m. So by using this visualization, each leader can actually move this magnet throughout the day to make sure that, do I have any deviations, or did I follow my structure, my standard? So in this method we try this structure, the future state, for a couple of weeks so that we feel comfortable with it, and then we go into the last step, which is to standardize, and that means an agreement with the superior manager that yes, this is the leader standard that I will use, and when I start applying this leader standard, there will be deviations, leadership deviations, that I will have to solve, and my superior manager will then apply the leadership principles to actually support me in solving these leadership deviations. So this was very briefly about the method leader time. So at this point we've come to the summary, and I will hand it over to Henrik again.
Hello, summary. Main takeaways from this webinar. What we hope is the main takeaway from this webinar. The lean leader must realize the coupling between values, lean principles, and results. The values influence the whole organization. Everything we do must be in line with the values. The lean principles help us how to think when we develop our standard or ways of working. As a lean leader, we are convinced that the right result will come if we use the right methods. We use management by means. By the way, management by means really demands that you work with standards. If you don't work with standards, you cannot work with management by means. So that is a very good thing. If we use management by means, it does not matter if the results are good or bad. We are still interested in the way we do things. If the result is not good, the next natural question is, did we follow the standard? The starting point for the structured improvement. The leadership principles and employee principles provides valuable help, guidance and support to adapt behaviors. At least almost everything can be improved over and over again. Leadership is in that case as any other operation. Method can be used even in leadership and provide valuable support. And by the way, if you don't get the right result with the leadership, it's a deviation. Then you can start the question, did we follow the method, etc. In general, when you follow up with methods, what will happen if you meet that people don't use the methods? Would you blame them? Then we have to think very hard why people don't follow the methods. Most of the time it depends on the organizations, not the individual. Remember, the method is called 5 why, not 5 who. Further interest. The reason why we sell these books, we sell these books because we made them. Why did we make them? We use it as a way to be better in our own organization. We are quite small consultant organizations. We are 7 consultants. We're writing these books together, even if Per is the main author. So we do this to be a little bit better every day. In the consultants business, we work with train-the-trainer concept. So normally we are at our client's site like 2 times a month or something like that. We just want to hand over knowledge and coach them. And in that work, it has been very cost effective if they can use books which is in line with our training material. So that is the reasons we have made the books, and of course we want to sell them as well. And now Per has already told you that most of this material you will find in the book Leadership Making Lean a Success. My plan from the beginning was to not to tell you that, so you had to buy 3 books instead of 1 book, but now it's already done. But if you are interested in our books, you can find them at Amazon. If you are interested in putting questions to us after this webinar, you are welcome to mail us. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And now we will review any questions. If you do have any questions for Per or Henrik, please submit them on the right side of your screen and I will read them. And actually we do have a question, and the question is, how do you define making demands? Is it driving the numbers or driving lean?
It's actually, I would say it's about challenge. It's about to challenge the operation. I mean, if we don't challenge, we won't make any demands. So it's basically about challenging, but not that, as I mentioned, it's not only about setting higher goals. It could also be about following up more often to see more deviations. So that is what I believe is to drive change in a management by mean manner. I hope that was the answer to the question.
Okay, great. And I know Jim Garrick is on the line. Jim, do you happen to have any questions? Okay, well, waiting for Jim, what are the key obstacles for driving this through an organization?
The key obstacles. Well, I think it's when we work as consultants, we see that the main problem is to have the leaders convinced, because with proper leadership and the proper organization, most things can be solved. But the most important parts we face is when leaders are not convinced themselves. It means that they won't take up the leadership principles, and they won't take up either the lean principles or the leadership principles, I would say. So lack of conviction among top managers, I would say, is the largest obstacle. So to be successful in lean, and to get a sustainable improvement, we need to start at the very highest top management and make them convinced. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to drive the change that we want to do.
Okay, great. And Jim's question, oh, hang on, another follow-up. Once the leaders are convinced and have the structure in place, how do they overcome the challenge of pushing this downward to their employees on the front line?
Could you take that one more time, please?
Absolutely. Once the leaders are convinced and have the structure in place, how do they overcome the challenge of pushing this downward to their employees on the front line?
Well, I think if I understand the question correctly, I think patience is a very important characteristic that we need to have. I mean, if we want to do this too quickly, we are likely to go into a management by results mode. So management by means that we are convinced that if we do things in the right way, we will get the right results. So we need to be convinced in the way we work, and in that case, if we won't just push things down on our employees, but we will actually apply the leadership principles to do it in a wise way, to train them, to make them understand, and to follow up and have discussions on why things work and why things doesn't work.
Right, and that again is like the role of coaching and mentoring of leadership, with the coaching and the mentoring. Yeah,
coaching is definitely one way of doing it. Then again, people are different. Some employees need coaching. For some other people, coaching is really not the right tool, because perhaps they are so insecure that they at least initially need more direct guidance. But in a mature lean organization with mature employees, mature in the sense of lean matureness, coaching is definitely the way to go. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then here's another question. How do you gain initial alignment within an organization?
I think, as I said before, I think it has to start with the top management, the very highest top management. And I mean, working with lean to us, lean is a strategy of improving, and the top management must be convinced, and they must align the whole organization, making it clear that it's not a matter of if you want to follow this strategy or if you don't. In the same time, we say that we don't push it, but we say that this is what we are going to do. But within these boxes, within these frames, you are definitely allowed or expected to take initiatives. But the alignment must come from the highest level of the organization.
Okay, great. Do the leadership principles apply at all organizational levels?
Yes, I would say that's not a difference at all. They are, I mean, every leader has a leader. Definitely the same principles apply to every organizational level, but of course it may differ in exactly how we apply them. But basically it's the same kind of leadership issues we have throughout the entire organization.
Okay, great. And could the leader time method be used by people that are not leaders?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone that is short of time, and I guess that is pretty much everyone, could use this structured way of freeing up time. We call it leader time because this is a problem that when leaders don't have time to be at Gemba, it doesn't only affect the leaders but also their employees. So the leverage of freeing up time for the whole organization is huge. But actually this week I read in a paper about teachers at a school that apply the leader time method to free up time to teaching, because they have so much administration and so on that they don't really have time for the students. So definitely it can be applied to any kind of operation and to any to all people in the organization.
That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And here's another one. What are your thoughts on measurement tools for cultural assessment? Can culture be measured?
That's a good question. Can culture be measured? Well, I would say you could pretty much measure anything. The thing is, does it really help you? I think being the lean culture is actually how we behave, and the basic behavior in a lean organization is to apply management by means. And if that could be measured, I don't really know. I have no experience of actually measuring that, but again, I showed a scale ranging from management by results on the left to management by means on the right, and we often use that when we meet our clients and they have to make a self-assessment. Where are they on this scale? And of course it's a very subjective way of measuring, but still I think that the more people understand about what this is about, I think from the start they will put their cross very much close to management by means, but then after a while, when they really understand what it is about, it will move slowly towards management by results. And then they will, as they go along and they apply these leadership principles, they will move on to the right again.
Okay, great, thanks. And can you provide some examples of typical follow-ups in organizations that apply management by means?
Yeah. For example, a follow-up could be that the standard work is followed, and that is what we mean by these frequent follow-ups. I mean, if the leader is out in Gemba meeting his or her employees, he or she should definitely be there to actually follow up that everyone applies standard work as we have decided. That's one way of following up. Another way could be that to follow up that deviations are taken care of in the manner that we have agreed upon in our organization, for example. It could be that to follow up that we actually use the plan, do, check, act in our problem solving. And if you apply it to a flow, it could be like if we have the standardized buffer levels, it could be to follow up that we don't exceed the buffer levels, for example. Yeah.
Okay, great. And there's a comment here that that they said that culture, going back to the previous question, culture can be measured if you know what a great culture should look like. And they mentioned that that was an answer by a 3-star general that they met at West Point last week.
Yeah, yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you Per and Henrik and Jim for a very insightful presentation. This brings our webinar to a close. We are looking forward to seeing you at the Inside Excellence Conference in Jacksonville from November 10th through the 14th. And our next webinar is scheduled for January 12th on systematic layout planning. Please visit AME.org under AME Events and Training for more information and to register. And don't forget to fill out the short survey that will be in your inbox. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a productive day.